What up, though? What is going on, everybody? My name is Deuce, and welcome back to the King and Deuce Show. Today, we are joined once again by a special guest, none other than my man, Mr. Eric Vincent of Clutch Points, beat
What up,
writer.
brother?
What's going on, brother? How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm excited, man. I'm really happy to be here. Media Day was a lot, and I cannot wait to share with everybody what we unpacked, man. It was a great time at LCA today. It really was.
Yeah, it looked like it, man. So without further ado, let's just get into it. We may have King joining us a little bit later. No guarantee, but we are still going to give you all the coverage either way. So let's just get into it, bro. Let's start with Mr. Trajan Langdon. Were there any? This is how we're going to do this. If there are any quotes that you kind of want to tackle first, I'm gonna let you do that because we're here because of you. Because we want to hear from you. So if there's anything you want to get to about each person, just let me know what you got, and then I'll just kind of piggyback off you. So starting with Mr. Trajan Langdon, Pistons president of basketball operations. Did anything stand out to you about Mr. Langdon?
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn and talk to him this season. He's had a lot on his plate, kind of getting thrown into the fire since May. Picking up with the draft, obviously when he was hired, he talked a lot about how agents were telling players not to come to Detroit. And it seems like he's kind of settled down since then. One of the questions I asked him was, how has the process been? Because a lot of the questions when he was on the podium, when people were talking to him, it was about, the team, and we think about the coach, we think about the players. And I wanted to talk to him because he's not the only, like the players, the veterans, they're not the only new pieces. He is one of the most important new pieces on this franchise. So
True.
I thought it was important to kind of gauge his perspective. And he said it was a really rocky start. It was kind of stressful to begin, but he's enjoyed the process. He's done a great job of adding the new voices in the front office. And he said they've all kind of done a great job of solidifying their roles and letting the leadership and the players and the coaching staff kind of piggyback off of that. So, I was really impressed with a lot that I heard from him. He seemed, he's a very low-key energy type of guy, but he's very straightforward with a lot of what he said. And he seemed very encouraged by the direction of the team. And, I'm really excited. I think Piston fans should be as well based on what we heard from him on Media Day.
Before I go any further, bro, I want to mention what he actually mentioned regarding the passing of Dikembe Mutombo.
Yes.
We lost a legend today. Dikembe Mutombo was a 4-time DPOI. I think him, Ben Wallace, and Dwight Howard are the only ones to do it. So, of course, not Rudy Gobert. So it's very, 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 very sad day for the NBA world and just for the world in general, because he was a humanitarian. Man, this guy was an ambassador for giving back. That's exactly what he would do, is give back to whoever he could, his homeland. He had a heart of gold, always had a giving spirit. So to lose the person and the player, just wanted to shout out, him and his family and send our condolences to them as well.
Yeah, he's a class act for that. He opened up. It's the very first thing that he said, and I thought there was no better or more appropriate way to do that. I mean, that was heartbreaking to see when I saw it on ESPN. So definitely prayers to his family. I honestly didn't even know he was sick, to be honest with you. So
brain cancer.
I had
no idea.
Clue. I had no clue. And he's 58 years old, bro.
I know.
He was older like that.
I know.
That hurt to find out. So prayers to his family, and shout out to Trajan for offering those condolences to start.
Right. So I had a couple quotes here. Is anything else you want to hit on with him before I kind of dive in a little bit, and you can kind of just react to my reaction?
No, let's hear what you saw. Yeah, it was a lot to kind of peel into. I'll
Man,
go my stuff. It was a lot that kind of happened.
We gonna get through as much as we can. We got a Lions game at 8:15. So between now and 8 o'clock, y'all got us. So we're gonna do the best we can to give y'all as much as we can. So let's get into it. All right. So Trajan, a few sound bites from him. He said that JB Bickerstaff has done a tremendous job getting these guys early buy-in the facility and on the court. Energy's been high and guys really like each other, which isn't a small thing. I thought that was important that he said that. And you can just see the vibes. The vibes are different. The vibes are different last year. We understand it. But it just feels like a new energy because it's not just a new coach. Like you mentioned, it's a new president. It's a huge turnover with the roster completely. So it just feels like everybody has that breath of fresh air, clean slate mentality, and they're kind of just ready to get into it. So I was kind of happy to see and hear that. He also said he's been going through the process with the NBA and Player Association to be cleared to play. I think he was talking about a SAR there.
Yeah.
Excited to have him back, waiting for a resolution. Yeah. He's allowed to do conditioning, strength training, and non-contact drills. I'm not going to lie, bro. I was a little bit concerned when I heard about this with Asar. I thought he would be ready come summertime. because it's been 6 months since we have heard this news about him, the blood clot. So I'm a little bit concerned, if I'm being honest with you. Blood clots are not anything to play with. With Chris Bosh into his career. So that was a little bit disconcerting for me to hear. I'm just gonna hope for the best and hope that things are okay with him now.
Yeah, he Asar, to kind of going off to what Asar's energy was, because he spoke about it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Trajan said he's not really he's not going to be able to practice starting tomorrow. He's going through protocol with the league, going through a bit of a procedure to make sure that he's 100% and it's safe for him to get back on the court. But Asar himself, he said he feels good, so I'm at least encouraged by that. It's not like he's dealing with any ailments. He doesn't feel slow. He said he's been able to work on what he's been able to work on. So there have been some signs of progression. Definitely understand some of the apprehension to, where he is right now, but there's a little bit of good with the bad as well. So
yeah,
it was a lot that came out of that. That was one of the first things that he noted as well. He said everybody's 100% healthy, but they're going to still take it slow until the star is ready to go and ready to get full and go.
Well, that makes me feel a little bit better, and that's why you're here, to provide more context for it. So yeah, thanks for that, bro, for sure. Because that was one of the biggest things that I took away from this whole presser. It was just the health,
Yeah.
So that's good to hear, bro. As far as him bringing in vets, he said we brought those guys in for exactly the reason, to bolster not only the playing on the floor, but it's a long season. Help guys go through the ups and downs and stay even keeled. We've talked about it all offseason, how important having vets is. So it was good to hear him say that. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, a lot of people asked him about Tobias, and he said that was a huge priority for them to get him over here to this team. One of the biggest things he was excited for, obviously, was the fact that Tobias wanted to be here. And you could tell it wasn't just, a money thing or, I'm just here just to kind of fill time. Like he said, it's an important thing for him to be a part of this process.
Right.
And, with the energy that he's had before with the Pistons and in the franchise, the great conversations he's had with Trajan Langdon, that gave him a lot of inspiration and motivation to be here. So, Trajan's done a fantastic job, even with JB Bickerstaff, who we'll probably talk about in a minute. He said the same thing. He said, I was planning on heading to South California. He said, I was looking forward to taking some time off with my wife, my kids, and my family, and just kind of reset. But he said he had a great conversation with Trajan. It was really inspired to come be a part of what was going on here. And considering coming off of a 14-win season with a 28-game losing streak to tack onto it, it shows how great he's been, and it shows how involved and active he's been. He's not dragging his feet. Tom Gore said, we're looking at you to be the guy to be the brain of this franchise, and he has not rested. It does not seem like he is taking this lightly. He's been very, very active in making sure that things are moving in the right direction, and I'm very encouraged with what Trajan is doing. It does not seem like, even with him showing up at the StockX event, like him just being visible and being out in front to show that he cares and wants this to move in the right direction. It shows that he's hands-on and he wants to make this thing work. So Trajan's he did a lot of good things. He said a lot of good things, and I think he's made a lot of great moves this offseason.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. He talked about, Tobias being like you mentioned, being a priority. His professionalism, playing on several playoff teams, things like that. So we're going to get more into Tobias and to the other guys. I don't want to get too much into the other guys yet. I want to hear from them, but I did bring it up. So I just kind of wanted to address that. He talked about Jaden Ivey as well, which we'll get into as far as how he's going to be used. And he really has some good things to say about J.I. So I'm looking forward to getting to that as well. So like you mentioned, let's get to JB, Coach Bickerstaff. You have any opening thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's kind of kept the same energy as well. He didn't peel out too much about, like rotations or like lineups specifically, but he's talked about how excited he is to have some versatility, having a blend of veterans to complement the young foundation. And everybody's kind of speaking to the same thing. We're not in the mindset of rushing a playoff timeline. They're not, rushing towards wins and losses. It's a step-by-step process that they don't want to rush. It's kind of similar, no disrespect or offense to what we heard a little bit from Monty Williams, but it wasn't any confusing head-scratching quotes by him either.
Right.
He spoke to, how he thinks Cade can evolve and develop as like the franchise focal point of this team, and what he sees from the rookies and how they can contribute. Like he spoke to a lot of different things about how he sees where these teammates and players can fit. Spoke highly about Jaden Ivey as well, who we spoke about. He gave a lot of good insight, and it shows that it reflected in the players as well too. It wasn't just his own vision. It looked like everybody was kind of in line with what they were seeing. And a lot of the players seemed very encouraged to be under his tutelage, even with some of the players being on their second or third head coach in their young season. So to be able to keep those guys motivated, to be able to relate and keep them inspired at the early stages heading into training camp shows that they're doing the right things. He's been super involved with Trajan, and I think they're heading in the right direction and doing the right things right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, bro. I totally agree. Just listening to just the things that he says is not just all just surface fluff. He's actually getting into the nitty gritty of the details about what he intends to do with this basketball team. And that's what I like to see. That's what I like to hear. What's your plan? We didn't really hear a plan for Monty Williams.
Right.
We just heard about his journey and why he was here, but he didn't talk about what he was going to do when he actually was here. So hearing the detail of his plan, the transparency of what he wants to do with this team, for me is like, yeah, breath of fresh air. Like you guys have mentioned in the comments here. Shout out to you guys too in the comments. We see you guys here showing up and showing out per usual. What's up, Dwayne? Everybody here. We're going to get to this too, Johnny, as far as the lineup clues, as far as what we think is going to happen. I think some of what they said today may kind of give us some insight.
Yep.
JB he talked about some players individually. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but he did just surface level. He talked about JD, wanting to see his ability, handling the ball. They saw film and saw how good he was handling the ball. He talked about what he learned in Cleveland, about having a strong foundation. He actually talked about also, additionally, I want to get to this too, Fred Vincent. He said Fred Vincent has a lot on his plate. We're doing some scouting as being the team shooting coach. Any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, it's important to have that. I think they did a really good job of surrounding him with the guys that are going to emphasize the areas that this Pistons team needs to grow with. So bringing in Luke Walton, bringing back Sidney Lowe, having Fred Vincent as not just the shooting coach, but he also talked about not specifically working with just the young players, but bringing in everybody to expand different parts of their game. So I believe even Dern has been involved with some things. Tobias Harris, who's regarded as a good shooter, but he's been active and involved in these drills and working with Vincent and the young guys as well. Yeah. So much to the point where it's, reflected to the relationship that they have with the young players. So he definitely has a lot on his plate. I've said that Fred Vincent is the ultimate X factor to all of this. And again, it's a lot of guys that they can learn and kind of take, those next steps under his tutelage. So yeah, it's a lot on the plate of leadership from Trajan and JB Bickerstaff. But again, they've done a fantastic job of surrounding themselves with the proper pieces in the front office and the coaching staff. And you can even say the same about the roster as well. You're not solely leaning on one or two pieces. You have a lot of guys who make sense, a lot of guys who are returning, even having, I asked Cade what it felt like to have Jared Jack come back. He was ecstatic about that. He said, it's great. I did a lot of my pregame workouts with him. He's been a huge part of my growth and my development. And he's somebody that I've been able to be comfortable with. And someone who obviously helped him and wanted to re-sign here as well. So yeah, I think they've done a really good job of keeping the pieces here to help that development. I'm really, really encouraged by that.
Man, he said, talking about Fred Vincent having a lot on his plate. I just like his approach too. He said, we're asking Fred to put together a program for everybody.
Right.
So everybody's not getting the same, the same reps, the same training, any of that, none of that. It's all different individually for each player. Just the preparation, bro. The preparation and the attention to detail and knowing what you're going to do for your team. Like that, for me, it's just the little things. It sounds like it's not a big thing, but we didn't have any of that last year. There was no direction. So just hearing from JB, Trajan, and then extending down to JB, and then by extension, his coaches as well, it's just they're all in one accord, it seems like.
Yeah, I wanted to ask them about that. I didn't get a chance to get to the players about it, but I mean, what we saw last season and the last couple seasons, a lot of Rico Hines runs, a lot of the summer highlight tapes on the line that surface and go viral and whatnot. We didn't see any of that this year. And I really wanted to ask them about it. I'm upset I didn't get the chance, but to me, it just seems like they kind of approach this summer different. And we see it with things like that because that stuff is fun. It keeps the fan base excited and energized. But for the most part, they didn't really tell a whole lot of what they're capable of. So for me, it was encouraging to kind of see something different in terms of how they were addressing this offseason. Even with Beef Stew saying like, yo, I've spent a lot of time playing the 4 last season, but this offseason in training, I spent a lot of time working out at the center position. So they're working on the things that they believe that they're best at and are best suited for this team to win And that was the key mantra, thought of what they're trying to accomplish. Whatever it takes to win. How can I help the next guy? How can I help my team? How can I be better on the next play? Like, that was their vision, and I think it's being reflected in a lot of the work that they talked about.
Well said, bro. Well said, man.
Thanks.
Let's move on to our franchise guy, Mr. Cade Deuce Cunningham himself, Motorcade.
Yes, sir.
There were quite a few sound bites, quite a few quotes from him I wanted to get to. Did you have any? I want to give you the opportunity first. Is there anything that stood out to you about what Cade had to say? And if so, what was it?
Cade is not playing around this year.
Exactly, bro.
There were a lot of jokes. There was some laughter. There was some personality. Cade didn't have any of it. And it's not to say like he's upset or anything. He's not like, it just seems like he's all business and locked in. Like he was kind of short on some answers just to show that he's not like trying to do the fluff thing anymore. He's dialed in on what's important. He's talked about how he worked on his floater. Shout out to Kuka Hill, who asked him about that. He said, yo, what did you work on this offseason to kind of work on your field goal percentage? He said, I worked on my floater a lot. Like, instead of, always trying to, go for a, finger roll layup or something different. He said, I worked on my floater to make sure I have that chance to get to the free throw line, to get my field goal percentage up. He said he worked on that a lot. He said he's definitely looking at things like all NBA and all-star nods as like individual motivation, which I have no problem with. I hate players who, that doesn't mean anything. MVP doesn't mean anything. Shut up. Yes, it does. It's okay if it does. It's okay to have individual goals. I have no problem with that at all. So Cade being honest about that and just seeing what his demeanor is. He was the first player to come out after JB and Trajan Langdon, and it seems like he is all business, and he looks stronger again from last season. So a lot to be excited about from Cade Cunningham for sure coming up.
That's got me excited. By the way, K, hi, I see you. I'm not ignoring you. I see you. What up, K? What up? So like, I'm glad you mentioned that, bro, because you mentioned that floater. That tells me that pick and roll is going to be heavy this season.
Yes,
that's what I got from that, because you're got to make a decision as a defense. You got to either play drop, or you gotta come up. And if you come up, you're gonna have JD available, or you're gonna have somebody in the corner open. So like that, it tells me they're gonna be relying heavily on that pick and roll in the half court, which I think they should. It worked last season. It worked the season before that, even when Kate wasn't even there, when he was hurt. So I just think they're really looking to get Jalen Duren involved a lot more in this offense, and that is going to open up things like the floater for Cade Cunningham. So I'm really looking to see this team. I want to see how JB is really looking to structure the offense and see how all these moving pieces kind of work together. It's going to be a lot of fun.
He was asked about his contract as well, and he did a really good job of assuring that this is where he wanted to be. He didn't really give any hesitation. It didn't really look like he thought about doing anything else. He said, I already knew where I wanted to be. It was just about working out the terms, working out the figures, because it wasn't a question of where or if. He said, I wanted to be here. He said, I want to complete this process. And he, like, for Piston fans who are in these kind of positions, and for teams who are in these kind of positions, even going back with the Monty Williams, you can't help but wonder, do they really want to be here? Is this really what they want to be in their career? And he did a good job of reassuring that this was something that was important to him. His brother Cannon, shout out to Cannon. I remember him doing Kuka Hill's podcast, and they asked him about that. It's like, yo, like, we could finagle you to, go to Houston and drop down. We could say this. He said, no, I want that responsibility of the number one pick. I want to be that guy. I want that to be my legacy, and I want to live up to it. So it doesn't seem like he's running from that at all. And to me, that makes my respect for Cade go up so much higher.
Exactly. Same, bro. Same, man. Like he didn't. It wasn't any ambiguity with his answer. No. It was, look, it was almost like, by matter of fact, like, I wanted to be here. I always wanted to be here. I think it's just such a conversation when you hear when you get to extension time. It's just natural, especially when your team is not winning. But it was just good to hear him kind of say, like, and I kind of liked it. Like, it seemed like he was trying to not come off as being like, what do you mean? But he was just kind of like, I always wanted to be here. Like, it was never even a question. So he really just wanted to reassure everybody, like you said, that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So that was great to hear. And to see him with this, like you said, being so locked in after he signed the contract. You see a lot of guys, when they sign a contract, they kind of get relaxed. They have this grace period of just relaxing and coasting into the season. He's like, nah, bro, I'm ready to get to it now. Let's go. So I absolutely love that. He talked about narrative too, as far as just having a fresh start. He said that's pretty much the narrative around us. It's just letting the past go, let it be what it was, and moving on. And also he talked about, I wanted to get to this too. He talked about the Tigers game when they clinched the playoff spot.
Yeah.
He was there. He said he was in the building, seeing how the stadium was reacting to that, and he got chills. He said, that's what we want to do for our Pistons fans, for the city as far as basketball. We want to bring that same excitement, same joy. So he probably, honestly, and I'm going to let you get to this, he was probably a little bit envious of how the crowd was reacting to the team. He wants that. Mm-hmm. Of course, they all do. But him just sitting there, I think he kind of saw what the potential of this city could really do when we're winning, as far as supporting the team. You know what I mean? And he wants that. So that was probably just a little bit of an added boost to him to say, hey, look, y'all, we can have all this. Yeah. We got to win now.
I love that. I'm too. That was the hope and the dream of bringing the Pistons down to downtown. So seeing them have that vision, and he's had some great memories in Comerica Park even before he got drafted. The "We Want Cade" chants from the crowd, like they have embraced him literally since day one. So it was cool to see him say that. Yeah, he took the pic on Instagram. You know, he was in the booth and checking the game out, and like you said, he got to feel that energy and say, you know what, we can be a part of this. Yeah. And I forgot who tweeted it. Shout out to whoever put this post up. But when you give the city and the fan base something to cheer for, they're going to be behind you. That is just facts. We saw that even with Tobias when he talked about when the Pistons made the playoffs in 2016 and what the energy was like then when they played against the Cavaliers at the Palace in Auburn Hills. Like, that energy is unmatched. When you give this city and you give these fans something to follow, they're going to be here. Even we saw it last season. As many Piston fans who showed up to LCA when they were, going downhill, they didn't have to show up the way that they did. Yeah, you was in the building. It was a lot of people that were still there. Exactly. So that support is there. As long as the care is there, as long as the effort is there, and as long as they're showing signs of growth, it's going to be that opportunity to get those chills in LCA. And I think they're on the way to make it happen. Yeah,
absolutely. Especially inside of an enclosed environment of a dome when you get all the sound waves just bouncing back. I'm getting musical now, but I enjoy that kind of stuff when I'm in the building. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, bro. I know. I'm sorry, bro. You can call me out. It's all good. I own it. I'll lean all the way into it. It's cool. It's all good, brother. I know it, brother. Yeah, a few more things. Okay, bro. He talked about the vets, right? First thing I heard out of his mouth about the vets was they can shoot it. First thing I heard him say, which showed what he was hoping for this offseason. Right? Yes. Veterans who can provide space.
Yes.
So I think he sees now that there is a window, or not even just a window, but a pathway to success for him now, as far as having the right team around. I think he can look around and see it. And I think that's why he has kind of ingratiated or endeared himself to Trajan, because he's the one that made all this possible.
Right.
As far as putting that team around him. So I'm really looking forward to it, bro. I'm trying to kind of suppress my excitement right now, but it feels different this year. It feels different this off season.
It does, and a lot of the vets feel it too. Like they all kind of reflected the same thing. As excited as Cade is to work with them, basically everybody who came up, including the veterans, all talked about Cade Cunningham. Like Fontecchio, one of my favorite quotes from him, he just said, playing with Cade Cunningham makes life so much easier.
Right.
He said, I didn't know really how great it was going to be, how many kind of looks I was going to get, but getting on the court with him just makes my responsibility so much easier. Tobias said the exact same thing. He said, yo, this is your opportunity to kind of take that next step and solidify yourself as one of the best guards in the NBA. And I think we can see that. Like, I don't see a reason why Cade can't hover around 10 assists this season. With the shooters that he has, with the lob threat of JD, even the comfort. Like I talked to Tim Hardaway Jr. as well about the relationship between him and Cade when Cade reached out due to his shin injury. He said, he's happy he was able to be a voice, and now he can't wait to be his teammate to kind of help him grow and take those next steps. So Cade, to me, I think, while it's still not perfect, I think this is, as Beef Stew also said, this is the most talented team and the best constructed roster they've had since Cade has been here. So
easily,
I'm super excited to see what that's going to mean for him and his production next season.
Easily, bro. 100%, man. And as far as him just being healthy, his shin is fully healthy. A lot of people, I'm going to give him some grace for last season, because when you miss a season, it often takes a season to get back to where you were before the injury. You know what I mean? You don't just come back with game speed and with your wind, your conditioning tight and all. No, it doesn't work that way. You got to play yourself back into shape, and the longer you're off, the longer it's going to take for you to get back to that spot. So now that he's had a full off season, a full past season to kind of get his legs back under him, figuratively and literally. I think now you're going to see him not second guessing that leg, not questioning that, because that's how you can cause other injuries. You know what I mean? You lean too hard on this side and the other side gets so. All that stuff is now in the past, and I'm really looking forward to him being 100% healthy and now in full condition to really be able to just be himself.
Definitely. He said that was something he worked on too. I believe one of the reporters asked about his conditioning and if he worked on that going into next season, because not only is he going to have a lot of responsibility offensively, while Asar is getting ramped back up, that means Cade is going to have to be leaned on a lot defensively as well. So he talked about that. He said he's well aware. He said he knows where his responsibility lies. And it doesn't sound like he's running from it at all. I respect that so much about this kid's game, for real.
Yeah, bro. Just to piggyback on the last thing you said about him taking some more of that defensive responsibility with Asar potentially being out.
Yeah.
JB Bickerstaff months ago talked about how he wanted to turn Cade into a two-way player anyway. Right? So this just falls right on. Now, did he say that knowing Asar might be out? Who knows? But either way, if this is what he wants him to do, this is a perfect opportunity with Asar being out to kind of get into that role early into the season and kind of build on that when Asar comes back.
Exactly. Breaking news to those who don't watch the Pistons and act like Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes are the only two-way players in his class. You're full of you-know-what. Because Cade is probably the best two-way player in his class. It is not close.
Ain't no probably.
We know already what this dude's capable of. And I'm super excited, even though I don't want him to be leaned on as their top or primary defender just because I don't want him to be in foul trouble like that. It's still encouraging to know that you can rely on him because he ain't no slouch on off-ball or off-ball defense. Cade gives it 100%, and I think it's going to reflect throughout the team this year.
Well said, bro. Well said. Let's get to Jaden Ivey, man. Any opening thoughts on my guy, J.I.?
Jaden Ivey got a new hairdo out
here. You see the braids? You see the braids? You know what's funny, bro? I linked up with him a couple months ago. King and I got a chance to link up with him a few months ago.
Yeah.
And he had his hoodie on. And I couldn't, because I'm short. I'm like 5'7". So he's 6'4". So I'm looking up and I'm looking at his hair and I'm like,
trying to peek in.
Those just like really thick waves,
right?
Or like what? I couldn't tell, and I didn't want to ask him. You know what I mean? So I'm just, but it was so it's funny now. Like when I look at the pictures we took, I can kind of see short dreads underneath his hair. Yeah. So it was just cool to actually see the full thing. I talked to his father too. Said, he was kind of keeping it low key. So it's just cool to see. It's kind of like new look, new mindset, new start. Just completely clean slate. And I'm just like, let's get into it, J.I. So any thoughts you had on Jaden Ivey, bro?
Yeah, another person I'm super encouraged about. Trajan, one of my favorite quotes from him was he talked about the work ethic of his team. And I asked Jaden when he came up to the podium. Trajan said there have been times that he has been one of the players that we've had to take out of the gym because he works too much, because he's trying to go too hard. And so I asked him about that, like, yo, what does it mean to you to set the standard with that kind of work ethic going into the season? He said, yo, that's everything. Like, it don't matter. Even if you go back to last season, he said that work can't be replaced. It can't be cheated if you're trying to grow, especially as a young team. So for me, I was super encouraged by what I saw from him. Another person who looks stronger. He was in good spirits. He was smiling. He seemed like he was, ready to go for next season. He seemed like he's trying to take on a bit of that mentorship role as well. Talked about the rookies, talked about the young players. And if you look at the roster, the guard depth chart is not as crowded as it was last season. There's no Killian Hayes, no Monty Morris. I think it's some other people that I'm forgetting, but it's not as crowded as it was last season. So a lot of responsibility is going to be leaned on him, Cade, and Sasser, and whoever else is on ball for the Pistons as well. Right. And it seems like he's going to be prepared for it. I liked what I saw from him. I really like what I heard from him. And I think JB's going to do a really good job of utilizing him and Cade in their proper spots in the backcourt.
Yeah. You mean Evan Fournier wasn't a great player for us last season in backcourt? He wasn't that good for us last year?
the Olympic specialist. How can I forget Evan Fournier?
Right. I had a few quotes about Jay I wanted to get to too, bro. He was asked about the seizing the remaining minutes at point guard. And he said, I think I can do some special things with the ball in my hands. When Cade doesn't have the ball, I can make plays and release stress off of him. And that kind of goes back to what I think we said. Cade is a starting point guard. He's a starting two. When Cade slides to the bench, he becomes the one. And I think that's what we're going to see. And I'm looking forward to it. Additionally, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Go
ahead. He talked about being able to knock down that three ball and how he's continued to work on it. It's not something that's new for him. I think he's been getting a lot of flack for shooting. I know he didn't on paper shoot it great, but he's a knockdown shooter when he's open. It's not like he's Thabo Sefolosha when he's open. You know what I mean? This guy can shoot the ball. And I think as he continues to work, he can get to 37, 38%. I really think he can get there. Will he? We'll see. But I think it's definitely something that where he will at least be a threat on the floor as far as shooting the ball. It's not going to be a liability as far as shooting the basketball. Also,
I 100% agree.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just gonna say I think he's obviously one of the players that's highest on the pecking order of who he's going to be who Fred Vincent is going to be working with. And again, we've seen the improvements. If it's not directly in the numbers, it's definitely in his shooting form, because he does not look like the same shooter that we saw in Purdue. That form is different. He's way more confident with it. He didn't even have
100%.
a mid-range jumper for real in college, and now he leaned on that a lot last season, and I think we're going to see more of that this coming season as the space gets a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, with him being a ball handler, again, the part that I'm so excited about with his backcourt, I don't mind Ivy playing off ball, because that means you could put Cade Cunningham's 6'7" super strong frame in the post on the block. And I think that's something that they have slept on through his entire career as a Piston. So
you've been saying that for a while, bro. You've been saying that since last year.
I'm talking about it. I need you coaches to listen to me. I'm trying to help y'all. So I'm hoping they pay attention to it. I really hope they focus on that this coming season. I really do.
Agreed, bro. He talked about I'm here. It's, you know what, you mentioned it earlier. I'm loving how these other Detroit sports teams are kind of putting friendly pressure, right, on them as far as, hey, we got to step it up now. It wasn't just Cade. He talked about it too. Jaden, he said the Tigers made the playoffs. The Lions made some noise last year, and this year as well. He said we want to be that team. The city is changing, and we want to make a push this season and play the best ball we can every time we step on the floor. So these other teams are really motivating them. Not saying they didn't have it already, but it providing added motivation. I think, like, hey, we gotta pull up our end of the bargain too. You know, these other teams are giving the fans what they want. We got to do the same thing. So they really seem motivated to do that.
Yeah, and it's like that was a very common question that was asked throughout media day, and I think it means more for Jaden Ivey because he has closer Detroit ties than anybody else on the roster.
Good point.
We know about his family lineage. We know about his father. We know about his mother. We know about his grandfather. And how tied they are to Detroit sports. So for him, like, it means the world. You even saw it when he was answering the question about the Lions and the success that they've built, the Tigers making it to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Like, that means something, especially to somebody like him who knows what Detroit truly stands for in the sports community. So
good point.
It's definitely motivating for them. You don't want to be lagged behind when everybody else, like the Lions are doing great, the Red Wings are taking steps forward. The Tigers, doing great things. So, yeah, you don't want to be, the last one there. You want to be in that group, too, with them.
Yeah, for sure. And then finally for Jaden, he was asked about this, so he had to address it, about having his third coach or playing for his third coach in 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And he said it's not easy at all. He said anybody can attest to that, having 3 different head coaches in different systems every year. It's not easy. That's what makes you a pro. It's just being able to adjust to whatever system it is. Any thoughts on that statement there?
Yeah, that's definitely something that can't be overlooked. I mean, for a young player that's trying to get acclimated to the NBA, I mean, there's already so many different things you got to learn. While he said, I think it was him and Ron Holland who talked about, Jalen Durr, excuse me. They were talking about, while maybe the coaching may not be super different, it's kind of just different terminologies and other things that they kind of work through. It still can mean a lot to go from different kind of styles, especially when you have a Dwayne Casey who's maybe a little different tempered coach compared to a Monty Williams or even a JB Bickerstaff. Maybe it seems like he's way more fired up than the 2 previous coaches that they had. So for definitely the last coach. Guys, definitely the last coach. Definitely, it's definitely a lot for those guys. I mean, again, it can't be overlooked with all that he's had to deal with. Having 3 coaches in 3 seasons, coming off the bench, not playing in 4th quarters, not playing these stretches where you're expecting to be one of the focal point pieces in those kind of situations, and that you're not really getting those opportunities. He's had a lot that he's had to shuffle around and deal with while still being able to stay productive and show that he can be one of them ones for the Detroit Pistons. So it's definitely a lot, and I'm happy that they addressed that question head on.
I agree. And as much as we talk about how Cade has had a bad rap or had a bad situation here.
Right.
Somehow that seems to get absolved when it comes to Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I know Kate's been here a year longer, but that first year wasn't like it was great. So I'm just trying to understand, like, you think about Jaden's first season. That first season was as tough, if not tougher, than Kate's first season as far as roster construction and talent.
Absolutely.
You think because when Jaden was a rookie, think about how many injuries we had that season.
Yeah.
Kate was out the whole year pretty much, other than 12 games with his injury. So, and they were shuffling. He was the only guy who pretty much played 65 plus games all season. Only guy. Yep. Everybody else was hurt. So for him to still put up, 15 and 5 and 5 pretty much with that roster as a rookie, and he's getting this flag. I just don't understand why. I just don't get it. And then look at that last season, which was just a dumpster fire of a season for us. Like, how is he to blame? So right. I just think he's really got the short end of the stick when it comes to circumstance.
I agree.
And I think he's going to prove he's going to surprise a lot of people this season, bro. Like he's in the lab. His mind is clear. He's a father of 2 now. Like his whole mindset is just different now. He's at peace. He's not concerned about the noise. He's ready to play basketball and he's ready to prove the doubters wrong. So I can't wait. You got anything else on that?
No, yeah, I was just gonna say it seems like that seems to be his mindset. I mean, even going through everything, and even with his rookie year, with Sadiq getting traded that same year, Wiseman coming in, and basically their whole wing room being limited in terms of athleticism, he was carrying a lot of it. Like backcourt didn't have much to work with Cade being gone for the whole year, basically. Yep. Playing next to Killian Hayes, who
Corey Joseph,
completely different style. Corey Joseph, like it was just so much they had to deal with, and like you couldn't have said it better. Like his circumstances, granted, people don't care. They're only going to pay attention to wins and losses. But when you pick apart details like we do, that matters a lot. Like the environment around you matters, especially for a young team. There weren't any veterans for them to lean on like that for real. So. Yeah. Like this means a lot to have them be surrounded by the proper environment at this point. I think this is the best supporting cast that we've seen for this young foundation so far.
Yep. The casuals will look at the why when it comes to his struggles when they see if and when he plays very, very well this season. Because it'll be such a contrast. Well, what happened? And they'll go find out.
Exactly. Yes. Just pay attention.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Keep your eyes open, y'all.
Please.
Asar Thompson.
Yes. Let's
get to him. And we're going to get as much as we can, guys. We're watching the clock and we're watching the players who we got to get to. We're going to get as much as we can and hopefully we get everybody done. Asar Thompson. Any opening statements on Asar Thompson?
Asar was pretty short-spoken about a lot of things. He's definitely encouraged and excited to be back. Again, he said he feels good regardless of the precautions that the Pistons and the league is taking right now with his health. Because, blood clots are nothing to play with. Like, that needs the most sensitive, hands that's dealt with that kind of circumstance. So, I asked him actually about, how they adjusted to all the struggles and how they reflected on a lot of what happened last season. Okay. And he said, look, everyone's aware of what happened, but we're not trying to dwell on it. We're all addressing it. We've talked about it. We know what happened. We're ready to grow now. We're not, we're not going to sit and wallow about what happened to us. We didn't play well. Things didn't go how we wanted them to, and we're ready to build and grow from there. So again, they didn't run from, the struggles of last season, and they didn't kick Monty's back in either, which I respect. So they did a good job of addressing it, and it seems like he's just as motivated as everybody else to correct what happened last year.
That's great to hear, man. Yeah, you mentioned it earlier, but that really kind of put my mind at ease a little bit, just knowing that they're being more precautionary, which I would prefer. I would hate to have him come back and then mid-season he goes down for the rest of the year or something crazy, like for it to be recurring or anything like that. Yeah, it's just better to just play safe. So I'm with you on that for sure.
Absolutely.
He also talked about his work with Fred Vincent. He said he's worked with him quite a bit already. He said, I'm going to work hard on that jumper. He said, I'm not saying nobody else doesn't work, to get it, but he said, I'm going to come in every day and I know I'm going to bring a lot to the floor. Besides that, that's the finishing touch. So he's really confident that he can really improve that shooting stroke. And I think him just being around Fred Vincent, that kind of speaks to what he's able to do for these guys.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to pay a lot of attention to that shooting. Something else he talked a lot about was his handle as well. That was something I was a little worried about last season because I thought that was one of the things that was praised a lot about him coming out of OTE. So
right.
to see it be a little loose, kind of how it was last season. But again, he was a rookie, so I'm not going to kill him too much.
Yeah.
But he said he's worked a lot on that. He said he's very confident with that. And to me, with that, may not even have to spring the necessity of an immediate, be a 35% shooter from three. Maybe that doesn't come right away. But if you got a handle and you're able to, blow by defenders and draw extra attention, he's already a really good passer. So again, the shooting will get there. And he said he's focused on getting there and putting that work in with Fred Vincent and the rest of his team. He said he's willing to do the work and make that happen. And adding with his handle as well is something very encouraging. Tobias Harris talked about that as well. Like there's times where, they might be shooting, just getting loose and warmed up and whatnot. And Tobias would come tap him and say, "Hey, T, come shoot with me. Come over here. Let's work on some things."
Yeah.
So just that simple thing alone shows that, hey, you're not in this by yourself. We got you. We're a team. We want to help lift you, and we want to all do this together. So again, this environment for these young guys looks so promising. He also talked about his defense as well, which I was really happy about because he got that dog in it when he was talking about his defense. My favorite quote from him was, "In my heart of hearts," he said, "In my heart of hearts, nobody can score me. I still want to be that guy." Oh, let me get to the exact quote he said.
Okay,
I don't want to.
Let's get to it.
But he was very, very confident about that because as one of the primary guys for the Pistons, it's still going to be a lot on his plate. Like they don't want him to. Like they're not going to lean on other guys to carry the water as the prime time defender. So I'm still trying to find the quote here. Yeah, here we go. "Whoever I guard, I'm trying to shut down. In my heart, I don't believe they can score me." I absolutely loved hearing that from him. He still believes in himself as a rookie. He said, "I'm still that guy, and I'm still trying to be the number one guy to shut down their best player." And we saw him do that in some good stretches. So I'm very excited to see about him grow for next season.
The first player that comes to mind for me is Shea. What he did against Shea, man, I hadn't seen anybody do on multiple plays in the game all year. He was the only guy I saw really do that, and that kind of stood out. So for him we already would agree that he's one of our best defenders already. But to hear him out the gate talking about how he wants to improve his defense, he has the potential to be one of the best defenders in the world. Period. All defensive teams, all that. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but even with the last game he played was against Dallas. I don't know if people remember that game too high. Luka was cold to start that game.
I remember.
Luka was not playing well because Asar had him in shambles. Like he has great footwork, like his quickness and his hands and his arms, his wingspan. He uses all that well. If he can just find a way to minimize the fouls and then get some support behind him as well from the front line, he's going to be dangerous, and it's going to put them in positions to utilize. This is another question, another thing that somebody asked about.
Yeah.
Being able to play fast, being able to play in transition, using that athleticism. I saw, shout out Ashton, the trainer. He even tweeted it. He said, "Ron Holland and Asar in transition, watch your head." So when they're getting stops on defense, you'll be able to have those opportunities where Asar is leading the break. I remember the game against Chicago where he threw the lob to Jalen Duren in the home opener to close the fourth quarter out. Like, they'll have more opportunities to do that when he's the leader on defense for this team. I think that potential is still there, and I think we'll be able to unlock it for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, our wing room is going to be fun. We're going to be fun. We're going to get to Holland later, but you mentioned it. And it's funny, in that same tweet about Holland and Asar, somebody actually replied to AB and said, Ashton, and said, and Ivy. Ivy too. I'm forgetting about Ivy. But our athleticism is just leaps and bounds, just much more improved than it was before. And like you mentioned, Asar is a big part of that. Holland, all those guys are a big part of it. So just seeing how they are able to get most of their, not most, but a lot of their offense from their own individual defense, it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch. For sure. Man. You mentioned this guy when you talked about how he's kind of taking the young guys under his wing. Tobias Harris.
Yep.
A lot of people have talked about, and I don't understand it, how they felt he was overpaid at $26 million a year, 2 years, $52 million. And what I was trying to explain to everybody, and I will do it again, and then I'll let you elaborate because I'm sure you got some points on him.
Yes.
You didn't just pay him for on-court production. The example you just mentioned about how with Asar Thompson, he pulled him to the side. Hey, AT, come shoot with me.
Mm-hmm.
Asar said they didn't have that last year. You're paying for that leadership. You're paying for that mentorship.
Yes.
That goes into the $26 million a year. It's not just now if that wasn't there, if it was just based off of skill and he was a third, fourth year player, maybe you pay him $22 million a year.
Right.
But you see what I'm saying? But when you have the intangibles that he can bring to the table, and when that's lacking so much from your previous roster, bro, we're not Boston. We're not Dallas.
Right. Exactly.
We're not the Lakers even.
No.
We were the worst team last year. So you just off of that, you got to pay a little bit more.
100%.
Just off of that.
you paid a guy, like Trajan said, you paid a guy that wanted to be here. Like his wife is here. He has history here. You talked about, the Stan Van Gundy days. I wanted to ask if he still has a relationship with those guys, but hopefully I'll be able to get
Oh, yeah, you'll get a chance. Season. You'll get a chance for sure.
But yeah, he's I think he's a perfect piece for it. Like, granted, we don't know what his usage is going to be like. In an ideal world, Cade is your leading scorer, Ivy's your number 2, and maybe Tobias comes after that. So I think he's in a perfect position where he gives enough versatility as a scorer to be able to create his own shot on his own, which is something that they've lacked tremendously in the front court. Somebody who can play catch and shoot basketball as well from any point on the floor. I just think he gives you something different. And what the hell are people talking about overpay for 2 years? 2 years for $52 million? That's not a lot of money. And it's not even, I'm not going to talk about like where, the future could lead with that deal or how, if he's here. But the point is, for 2 years, a guy that's in his 14th season, you're not relying on him to be the guy. Like, that's just not how it's going to be. He's supposed to complement the foundation and help them be better. And I think his skill set shows that perfectly. So whether it's Cade finding him for open looks, whether it's Ivy finding him for open looks, Asar or Duren, whoever it is, his job is to help the young guys grow. And that's what he spoke to. A lot of what he said was how he's helping the rookies, how he's helping Bobby, somebody who Bobby said what he's even compared to, which I thought was pretty funny. But that connection that he's already translating. I mean, we even saw him hanging out with the Pistons during Summer League when he signed here. So I'm very encouraged by his presence. I think he's a great fit, and I think it made a lot of sense, and it's for damn sure not an overpay in any way.
Absolutely not. And for anybody who's wondering, yes, he is an upgrade over Bojan Bogdanovic. Yes. He is. I had some people asking me, is he better? Yeah, he's better. He's better. Yes, he's not the best defender in the world, but he's much better defender than Bojan ever was. Him and
Fontecchio, having the collaboration of those two is easily an upgrade. Like, they're dope. They're both without question better on offense and defense.
Easily. So let's get to some sound bites from him. He said we got a lot to prove and a lot to change to get that respect back on our name. So he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. He also said it's a nostalgic feeling being here and seeing how the city has been built up. Downtown is amazing to see, and knowing that more growth is needed and will be done. The city is primed for a success story, and I'm really excited to get to work. I mean, I love this guy, bro. I was sad to see him go. I'm a Blake Griffin fan, but I did not like that trade. No, I did not like that trade.
Yeah, that broke my heart. I remember talking up because I remember that core. They were good. Like, I really liked Marcus Morris. I loved the Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond tandem.
Yes.
The lobs. I'm like, if they could just find that one small forward or that 1-4 that just that meshes in perfect. And what KCP, he was the other backcourt mate with Reggie. And then out of nowhere, that Tobias trade happened. And I thought, we got it. This is it. This is it. Yeah. And I thought it was going to be the move. I thought it was going to be great, but unfortunately, they were all kind of premature in their development with some things, and SVG didn't really do a lot of favors. I remember he played Tobias off the bench for a while. Like, it was a lot of things that just didn't work out that made sense, but he was still encouraged enough to still want to come back and be here. He saw where they were building. He had great conversations with Trajan Langdon, and he has a lot of respect for JB Bickerstaff as well. They both openly said Cade and Tobias we're looking at as the leaders of this team. Jalen Duren as well. So he seems like he's stepping into that role. He's very, very active in making sure that everybody is, putting in the work as prepared as they can be. Something else he talked about a lot that I think was super important, because we can talk about X's and O's all day. We can talk about the basketball all day. He even talked about just the mental aspect of growing as men, saving your money, traveling right, eating right, the things like that, those intangible things that kind of get swept under the rug a little bit because we only see them as athletes. He cares about them as growing young men. And I think that is super important and shows how invested he truly is with this franchise.
Man, you hit that on the head, bro.
Yep.
And it just goes back to the intangibles. You mentioned, you mentioned the pick and roll offense with Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond. This team kind of reminds me of that team, if you think about it. If you got the pick and roll with Reggie Jackson and Andre, you got Cade and you got JD. You got an athletic 2 guard in KCP and you got JI. You got an interchangeable 3 and 4, Marcus Morris and Tobias, and now you have possibly Fontecchio and Tobias, right? So I think, especially now with Stu saying he's going to play more 5 this season, he's not going to be the 4. So I see a lot of similarities, but I think this young group is better, and so that's why I'm excited.
Yeah, you a superstar at point guard too. Like Reggie was good. And we thought he was going to be, kind of a sure fit, but he had a lot of injuries that he dealt with. He was a bit undersized, wasn't the most consistent shooter, and there was just a lot of other things that he had to work on. In terms of becoming the guy, especially when he was replacing Brandon Jennings at the time too, who was coming off an injury. So it was a lot of things. I definitely see what you're saying. There's definitely some similarities.
This team is better for sure.
For sure. Yeah. And they're younger too. They're younger. They're a little more polished. And I think things make a lot more sense based on the dynamic that they have. I'm very excited to see how they gel together. Yeah, man. Yeah. A few more things on Tobias. His brother went to school here. He has roots here too, and he said he wanted to be here. And the biggest thing for me, he said, you look on paper and you may think one thing about this team, but he said sitting down with Trajan and Cade's mental at the time and where he wants to be as a player made me realize this is moving in the right direction. How many times have we heard players who came here say that? At what point do we stop saying this is just PR stunts? Right.
And this is just truly how these people feel about, like, come on, y'all. At some point, you got to really just say, okay, this guy said it. This guy said, like, this is just who this guy is. And I think it gets overlooked because, once again, circumstantially, this team was not good.
Right.
And when you're not good, nobody cares.
Right. And so, having that encouragement fed to your players means a lot too. But the great part about it is, like you said, it's not just window service. Cade is actually as good as people say. It's not like we're waiting for, like, it's not like Cade is, shooting 30% and, averaging like under 15, 14 points. Like, oh, he'll put it together. No, we've seen it. And he's telling him now, bro, you can be as good as anybody in the league. And we all know that already. So getting that reassurance from a veteran, showing it by putting, pen to paper to be here, shows so much. I think that means a lot for real. I really do.
Yeah. And it's going to be great just to have that veteran to push Cade. You know what I mean? Like Tobias said, he told him, he has to take that big step into turning himself into one of the best guards in the NBA. He told him that. So just having somebody there to kind of like push him like that is what I love. Just having those veterans there to push him and to not let him get relaxed and to keep growing is exactly what a young franchise player needs.
100%.
And he's got it now.
Yep.
Let's move on to the front court. We're going to talk about Jalen Duren. Any opening thoughts? What are your thoughts on what Jalen Duren had to say in his presser?
Jalen seems like he's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he's aware that he hasn't really cracked his ceiling of how good he can be. He talked about his passing. He talked about growing as a defender. He talked about expanding his game and doing things that he hasn't really had the ability to show yet, whether it's his fault or coaching or whatever it is. Just in a general sense, he knows that he has a lot more that he can show and bring to this team. I think he's very motivated. He's running around having fun. He's the jokester of the team. He's running around with the old school 90s camera that you throw away after you take pictures. And I think that balances it out. When you have someone super serious like Cade, but then you have a jokester and a funny guy like Duren. And again, one of the funniest things is where he's talking about like the rookies and he's talking about the other young pieces of the team. A lot of these people are older than him. So it's just funny to hear them look at him as the leader, even though I don't even think he's 21 years old yet. So it's really cool to see how he's, viewed from the team, from the coaching. Again, I think we're going to see the best form of him this year. The dynamic between him and Cade with that 1-2 punch, I think is going to bring so much out of everybody else.
And man, I don't want to be I told you so here, but chat, you guys remember when there was talks about, going and getting Hartenstein in free agency, or going to get this big guy in free agency. And I'm just like, nah, No. Jalen Duren, the reason that he didn't perform up to expectations last year was because he was not always locked in. Sometimes he checked out. Understandably so, because of how bad we were, but also you got to still be a pro. And that's what comes with age, that comes with experience, it comes with having vets on your team, right? One of the things he said, though, was as far as improving his defense, he said it's about locking in on every single possession. He didn't say it's about understanding scheme. He didn't say it's about improve. No, it's about locking in. And this is what I was saying before, bro. He wasn't always committed to the defensive end of the floor because the team wasn't good. And that's a maturity thing. And we understand it. Every player has to go through it at some point in their career. He's just so young.
Right.
Now that the team is so much better, and he actually said that, he said he's excited about what this team can do now. We're going to see, I think, just him improve, just his effort alone is going to show how good of a player. Because his first season, bro, he just has so many flashes, so many things. He can do that too.
Yes.
You know, these backdoor cut passes to guys, just different things. Being a hub on offense, which I didn't even know was he had. You know,
right.
But and then he kind of regressed last season, right? And I think that was a big part of why it was just here. It's like, man, we done lost 27 games in a row. We're not contending for anything. What is it going to kill if I don't give it every single possession? Right. That's not a good mindset to have, but it's a young mindset that many players have coming into the NBA, especially when they're in a losing environment. So him just being on a team that is contending or competing every night, that in itself is going to help people see how good of a player he already is.
Right.
And that there isn't the improvement for him is going to come just from within and just between his ears. You know, once that happens, we're going to see a totally different Jalen Duren this season.
I agree. And hopefully seeing him in a healthy mindset as well, because we saw at the start of the season, he looked like people were super high on Alperen Şengün.
Yeah.
I thought he was in line to be one of those breakout bigs too. Like, he was doing a really good job defending the paint. He was obviously one of the best rebounders in basketball per numbers and effort on offensive and the defensive glass. He was doing it on both sides. And I think now with better support, obviously, hopefully when Asar comes back, it's definitely going to help him a lot more as well. But I just think he's going to be in better position to not even just play in the right spots, but like you said, stay in the right spot mentally as well, because he's able to try different things, but I think they're going to be able to maximize what he's best at as well. Playing that pick and roll offense, you know, being in positions to catch, you know, the ball in short roll situations, to drop off open passes to cutters or guys in the corner. He spoke about that. He spoke about, you know, his passing being an underrated part of his game. And then even like looking at other things, like he worked super hard in pregame on his jump shot, on those 15-footers, and he raised his free throw shooting by like 15%, which is unheard of for a big man, especially a young one. So yeah, he said it too. He's like, yo, it's not, I don't care if I'm a big, I don't care that I'm a center. It's not acceptable for me to be a bad free throw shooter. He worked on that. So if he can tie in that same kind of effort to defense they did this free throw shooting, you're going to see a dangerous man anchoring this team on this inside. Yeah,
79% last season.
That's unbelievable.
You know, and there's more room.
Yes.
I think he's better than that. Yes. I think he's at 80% free throw shooter. I can see him getting 83. His stroke just looks it's so smooth, bro.
Yes.
His form, his back, everything about his shot looks good.
Yes.
So it's just a mental thing. Once again, locking in, especially at the free throw line. That's all concentration and rhythm.
Absolutely.
Right? So you hoop. So I just really am looking forward to seeing. That's why I think this team is going to surprise a lot of people, bro. Because I think so many guys are going to benefit from the changes that have been made. The talent's already there.
Yeah.
It's about putting it together and having the right coach to make it work. So yeah, JD. I expect he's going to average a pretty healthy double-double. Healthy double-double. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at 16-12, 16-13 next season. Andre Drummond-esque Pistons numbers in his third year as the Detroit Piston. That's not even talking 5. This is just his third season. So he's going to be about a beast, man. He's going to be a monster.
It's there. We see it.
Oh, yeah, we see it. Isaiah Stewart. Any thoughts? Anything stand out to you about what he had to say?
Yeah, again, I really was encouraged to hear that he's working a lot at the 5 position. We know that there's a lot of forwards now on this team.
Yeah.
Last year it was Bojan, Asar, Isaiah Livers, just guys that aren't really impressive or proven in the areas that they need to be proven in. Like Bojan was a good scorer, terrible defender. Like Isaiah Livers, horrible shooter, even though he's supposed to come in as a good shooter. And Asar, he needs a lot more work on his offensive game. So knowing that you now have some guys who give you some different looks, Asar still coming back on defense, Ron Holland, Bobby, like a lot of these forwards that they have, Tobias, Simone Fontecchio, a lot of these forwards fill in a lot of areas that they don't need to over rely on for Beef Stew. It seemed like a lot of last year they put way too much emphasis on making sure that he's an improved 3-point shooter.
Agreed.
While he is improved, that should not be your one of your first few points of emphasis and priorities in building this team. He's a scrappy, gritty guy that's going to be reliant on helping others. He's a great defender. And he again seems like he's motivated. He also talked about having a chip on your shoulder, talking about JB Biggerstaff leaving the Cavaliers having a chip on his shoulder. So I think that's a collective mindset with this whole team. Like, oh, y'all all think we gonna repeat what we did last season? Okay. Oh, the East keeps getting better. Y'all want to keep making these trades? Okay, we'll be ready. When you come here, we'll be ready. Because a lot of games that they played, even throughout that losing streak, they weren't just getting blown out of the water by 30 points. They were close up until crunch time. And that's
or they be winning. Like Boston, a la Boston.
Yes. Indiana Pacers, same exact thing. So they were maybe winning and just kind of let the wheels fall off in the fourth quarter, which is normal for a young team. I think they're locked in of understanding where things went wrong last season and how they can be better this season. So I really like Beef Stew talking about that chip on the team's shoulder.
You preaching, bro. You preaching. For real. No, you preaching to the choir, bro. Yeah. For real. Seriously. No, I just want to piggyback off what you said, man. It seems as if, like you said, they tried too hard to make him that guy. And it seems, because for those who remember, he said last season was the first time in his adult career, right, that he has played the 4.
Yeah.
Ever. And he still dramatically improved his 3-point. It just shows his work ethic.
Yep.
This dude works, man. He works his tail off. And he said he expects, like you said, to play more center, and he's happy for it. And he started smiling. And he said, JB loves my physicality and me playing strong down low. My offensive rebounding, I spent a lot of time this season, off-season, at the 5, and I'm looking forward to it. So he's going back to his natural spot. And it appears to be in a bench role, which I think he should be. I think that's where he's best suited. He's not going to start over JD, right, at the 5. And he shouldn't start at the 4 at this point.
Agreed.
I don't think. Now that we have guys who can be slotted there, more natural fit, he can go back to doing what he does best, which is doing the dirty work, punching people in the mouth, figuratively, and just making it hard for them every single night. When they come here, they're gonna know it's gonna be a ice bath after this one.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Jaden Ivey and his circumstances of adjusting to different roles and doing different things throughout his career. I remember Beef Stew rookie year, and it's hilarious that we have this guy now. But Paul Reed's game was very similar to how Beef Stew played his rookie year. Quick couple dribbles, bang you in the mid-range area, but I'm able to knock that down too if I have to.
Gotcha.
Able to go get scrappy and grab an offensive rebound and put it right back up. That was a lot of what he predicated himself on. Then his second year, third year, fourth year, he's, turning himself into a spot-up shooter. And that just wasn't helping this team. Even when he's knocking that shot down, you're not shown to be just a great shooter by how many you knock down. It also is predicated on how much attention you can draw as well.
Exactly.
And you could see defenses saying, "Oh, you gonna shoot that? Okay." Even if you make it, if the other team loses to him just being hot, they know that they did their job because their point of emphasis is keep Ivy out of the lane, don't let Cade get hot, and make everybody else beat you. And that's exactly what they basically had to do under the coaching of Monty. So I feel like he's, like you said, is going to get back to what he's best at, being a bruiser in the paint, setting hard screens, making sure he's playing that infectious, gritty style of Piston basketball.
Yeah.
That's where he's works the best at. And I think it's going to serve a lot off the bench as well, instead of forcing it, in different positions as a center or as a 4 in the starting lineup.
Yeah. And you made a great point as far as what defenses were giving up, right?
Yeah.
They were not giving driving lanes to Ivy, to Jaden, and they were not going to let Cade have any space, right?
No
Why is that though? It doesn't mean that Stu wasn't a improved 3-point, even respectable 3-point shooter. But what has history shown you, right? You know what Cade's game is. He's shown it over the years. You know what Jaden's game is. He's shown it over the years.
Right.
You haven't seen this with Stu over the years.
Correct.
He got slotted into this role this season. So it's a small sample size when you're playing against him to say, hey, he ain't doing this every night.
Correct.
You got to prove it to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead. If you beat us with that, fine. We'll take that, as opposed to the obvious weapons you guys have on this team that have proven to do it over the years. So to your point, it's just good to say, no, we're not doing that. Let's just have him go back to who he is. And when that's available, now that he has that in his arsenal, sure, you can let it fly. Absolutely. Right. But that's not what your identity is going to be on this team.
Exactly. It just seemed like they lean on that way too much. And then at the same time, too, where he might be working as a catch and shoot, player in certain spots on the perimeter, he also couldn't put the ball on the deck and kind of go get his own shot either. So if he's not being set up and he's wide open, he's a little limited in that spot. So now sliding him to the bench, we'll see how they work that rotation. He just seems better suited for the players that are working off the bench. So, having Sasser, staggering Cade or Ivy with him, having other shooters or having one of the young guys like Ron Holland maybe being able to come in and generate some offense that'll help get him some open looks. That'll make things a little bit easier for him. And I don't think that's something that they were able to focus on much last season, because I think Monty had a bad game plan with how to use him. I think we're going to see a much more improved version of Isaiah Stewart, and it's not going to reflect in numbers. Everyone's improvement is not reflected in numbers, and that's okay for a guy that plays like Isaiah Stewart does.
And he fits this team probably better than anybody else, as far as what Detroit basketball is, as far as physicality, as far as grit, as far as bringing it every night, diving to the floor for loose balls, hard fouls, all that stuff. That is Isaiah Stewart. That is who he is. He doesn't know how to be anything else. 100%. And so now that he's the longest tenured player here, he's the veteran of this team. We got Tobias, right? But he's, as far as tenure, he's which is crazy to say. He's the longest tenured player here. Crazy. So he's going to have a voice because he practiced what he preached more than anybody. So he's going to have a voice. He's going to be a leader for this team for sure.
Definitely.
He talked about earning respect. He said, we're playing gritty basketball, and we're playing strong. At the end of the day, we're playing Detroit basketball. And I was just kind of going back to what I was saying. Like, he knows, it seems like he knows the history. He knows, and not to say that nobody else does, but he seems to embrace it with a different kind of enthusiasm. You know what I mean? So I love having him here. And then now that he's being put into, I think, his proper role, we're going to see even, once again, a much better player.
Yeah, I think he sees a lot of what the Detroit mentality is throughout the duration of this franchise history, from the bad boys, Ben Wallace, Rasheed. He is of that mantra. Like, he may not have the other skill sets, things that they had, but that effort is there, that mindset is there, and that's more respected than anything from those kind of guys. And I'm sure they watch him and respect that in his game. So there's definitely value in where he can play and where he can contribute with this team. And I think the bench is definitely the best place to bring it, even if it's in staggered minutes as well with some of the starters as well. I just think it's a little bit better suited for how he's going to play. Agreed.
I think next season we're going to see a rich man's Jason Maxiell. Let's move on.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. All right.
Right? You like that? Okay, cool. Let's go to your guy. Let's talk about Simone Fontecchio.
Yes,
that's your guy. This is your guy, man.
Love Tech.
This is and I love him too, but this is your guy. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, he seems very happy. He's happy about the contract. He came in high spirits. He was smiling when he sat down. He got a big grin on his face. We're talking about Jaden Ivey being a father of two. Simone just had a child. He said he had a newborn this offseason that gave him some new motivation. And again, he's kind of just talked about how he's 100% healthy. He seems rejuvenated and ready to go. He said he didn't really like how last season ended with his health and just the kind of down spiral of the team, especially when he was starting to get a little bit more comfortable with guys like Cade and Ivy and, the other players that were on the roster. He talked about, where he thinks things can go now at this point. Again, I'm not really certain how they're going to use him. If it were up to me, I'd start him, but that's up to JB to decide. And I just feel like he fits no matter what. Even if he does come off the bench, his style of play is going to work. He can be a sniper. He can get as hot as anybody on that team.
Yeah.
I think he'll be as reliable as anybody on that team. I just think he brings so much, and I'm really, really excited to see what his fit will be with this roster.
He really just seems like a team guy. Mm-hmm. He's no stress, no drama, just goes about his business, no effort issues, plays smart, high IQ.
Yes.
Good. Like he just seems like a dream of a teammate.
100%.
And it's crazy because he talks about how Cade is a dream of a teammate. It just goes to show, you know what I mean? The intangibles, how important they are. But yeah, he's very, 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 very much a team player. Like you said, he understands how to play the game. Mm-hmm. So you can put him anywhere, like you said, and he's going to find a way to not hurt you.
Right.
He's not going to hurt you. When he played he wasn't turning the ball over. He wasn't holding onto the ball too long. He wasn't, you know what I mean? He just knows how to play basketball. If the shot isn't there, he's moving it. He's not holding on to the ball, and that's what you need. And he's a great team player, man. So he's going to be just fine. Now that his contract stuff is out the way, he can relax about that and focus on basketball. Also, he said that he was happy to have more of a significant role with the Pistons than he had in Utah. He said, they showed me how much they wanted me when they traded for me.
Right.
I don't take that for granted. I will always be grateful for the Pistons for making that decision. So just goes to show you, man, when you take care of your guys, they take care of you too.
He talked about some battles he had against Tobias Harris throughout his career as well. So he said he's excited to have him on the team now instead of having to, deal with that in guard. But I love how seamless his transition is, even with getting a bigger role, stepping in for somebody like Bojan, which again, a lot of people kind of thought, okay, well, it seems like he's filling in on his role now. He did it way better. And Bojan was good. I'm not even acting like Bojan was like a waste. Bojan was pretty good while he was here.
He was
kind of just on one side of the ball. And at the same time, too, even with the thing that drove me crazy about Bojan, he dribbled way too much. Mm-hmm. He dribbled way too much when he tried to get his shot. Simone gets right to where he wants to go. He knows he's going to pull it from the outside or he's going to go right to the rack, or he can just play in transition. He did a really good job running without the ball, something else Bojan wasn't super good at. He's super athletic. He's a lot bigger and taller than people give him credit for and realize. Yeah. And I think that's going to make a big impact when playing defense for this front court. I think he's going to be a big plus on both sides of the ball. Again, whether it's on the bench or as a starter, the way he plays is seamless for any type of role that you need him on. And even if it were for a different team, I feel like he'd be great for a contender as well. He's such a valuable piece, and it's super cool to know that a deal that maybe a lot of players and fans didn't have high expectations about, they now look at him and say, he may be able to stick around for a while because his play style fits so well with the guys around him. Well said.
Well said, bro. So you have him as your starting three?
I still would start him, bro. I really would. Now, Liz, I don't think he's a slouch defensively. Granted, I don't think he's going to fare well against a guy like Jason Tatum. I think you may have some problems with some other guys, but
who does?
Exactly. Like, especially if he's able to score and put pressure on them as well. He's not a guy that's just going to let you score and then ease up on the defense. No, he's going to make you work too. So, I would start him. I think he does make sense in a starting role. You don't have to play him 35 minutes, but I still do think he fits in that front court to me next to Tobias and Jalen Duren.
You know what's interesting? That's a good point. I was torn. And it's funny you're saying this now, and that's why I'm happy that we're having this conversation, because it just occurred to me that the likelihood of him starting just went way up, because the other guy I was thinking about now is not going to be ready for the start of the season because of his blood clot.
Exactly.
Sorry. Right? With the Sarr being out now, that just opens up a role for him to have that starting role. I mean, I don't see anybody else outside of a Sarr that was really kind of, pushing him for that starting spot. So now that Sarr is going to miss a little bit of time, I don't see who I would rather have there as far as spacing, defense, rebounding, all that. Yeah. So, I'm with you now. now that we have this news with the star, to me, the starting five should be Cade, Jaden, Simone, Tobias, JD. And I don't really think it's much to think about.
Which could work out well for both parties because, again, it showed that Simone could do just fine as a starter, but it also takes a lot of pressure off of Sar. If he's starting, it kind of puts a little pressure on him. Okay, hey, we need you to keep the offense up to par. Your defense got to be up to par, even with you recovering from what you're recovering from.
Right.
Now he's coming off the bench. You got Ron Holland, who's super hungry. Bobby, who's super hungry, like a lot of other guys who are young, ready to prove themselves. It kind of gives a little bit of grace for Asard to grow as a young player, which he still is, even as one of the best defenders on the team. So I think it kind of works as a blessing in disguise a little bit. Granted, you want him to be, okay in terms of outside of basketball, but in terms of just basketball, I think it fits just fine with their timeline, in my opinion.
And don't be surprised, because I'm a huge Fontecchio fan too. Don't be surprised that when Asar is ready, Fontecchio is still starting.
Yeah,
and continues to start.
Yes, it still could work. Bring him and Stu off the bench as gritty defenders too. That would be huge. Absolutely,
that's true.
I would love
that's
that.
true. You kind of selling me on it, bro. I wasn't sure, but you selling me on it, bro. I don't know. We'll see how I feel tomorrow.
I'll take that.
let's get to some of the bench guys now for sure. What we think is going to be the bench guys. I definitely think this guy's going to be a bench guy. Because of Jaden Ivey, Malik Beasley. He had a few quotes today, a few interesting things to say. Any thoughts on what he had to say?
I love that dude, man. He was very fun to talk to.
Okay.
He seems like I love that all of the vets have the same mind frame. Nobody is coming in seemingly like, I got to get mine. It all seems like they understand what their role is. He said, look, I know what it's like to be a starter, not play at all, play a lot, be on a winning team, be on a rebuilding team. He said, I'm used to all of that. I understand where my career has been, and I understand what these new guys are doing as well. So I love that awareness is clear, and it's not a question of, how come I'm not playing, 30? How come I'm not getting my shots? It doesn't seem like he's going to be very, hyper-focused on that. Shout out to Czar. He asked as well about his fit with Cade Cunningham. He's like, yo, I'm not an on-ball player, so I should be able to space out and get my looks with no problem. We just saw him where they took the video and he's doing his little dance with the little shimmy.
Yeah.
He seems fun. He seems like a good personality. He also talked about his jersey number with Ron Holland because he came in. Ron was supposed to be number 5. Malik comes in, and I asked him about that. Was it a long conversation? He said, he pushed back a little bit, but he said, you know what? You're a veteran in the league. You've earned this, and I got to earn my keep. Here you go. He said that made me respect him a lot more. It makes me want to work with him a lot more. He said, we go on the road. You going to be good no matter where we at, the cities and the major cities and whatnot. So it just feels like they have the right frame of mind of helping these young guys before I got to get mine.
Right.
And I think that has to be the mindset coming in. I love that from him.
100%. And like you mentioned, he's a vet. I heard him mention that Dennis Jenkins, he said he called me Unc the other day. That was I almost went off on him.
He said I lit him up for that. And that was too
funny. He said just teaching the young guys to be professional. He said they can learn from me. He said I've been a starter, like you said, not playing on a championship team. So just another vet who can also space the floor, who can help kind of build the chemistry and the camaraderie with these guys. But like you said, he seemed like a very likable guy, So
definitely.
Good guy to have on the team, man. And it doesn't hurt that he shoots 40+% from 3.
Not at all. Exactly what you need on this as a starter or as a bench player. They're going to use that a lot for sure.
That's right. Paul Reed. We're gonna kind of speed up a little bit here. Paul Reed, a guy that I have learned much about and didn't know much about previously this offseason. Any thoughts on Paul Reed? What he had to say?
He was kind of short spoken, but I liked the energy that he had. There's something important that I wanted to ask him about because he was obviously asked about transitioning from a contending playoff team like the Sixers going to a rebuilding team like the Pistons. He said, it's going to be an interesting adjustment, but I also asked him, does having somebody like Tobias Harris next to you make that easier? He said, absolutely. 100% it does, because I'm not coming by myself. Me and him had a relationship when we were in Philly together. So we're kind of coming in with the same expectation of helping everybody else. And I don't think he's going to be – I'm kind of curious to see how they kind of work out these rotations, because I still see a world where he could play 10, 15 minutes a game. I don't know if it's going to be like maybe him and, Stu coming in as a 5 and the 4, whatever it is. But I feel like his play style is very complimentary. He's a very good offensive player. Again, he gets right to the hoop. He has a nice mid-range touch, and he's a big dude too. He's very physical, very strong. I think he's a very good addition to have on a team where you're replacing guys like Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman, who are prove-it guys that we don't really know where they're going to turn out to be. Hopefully, you know exactly what you're going to get. He's a veteran. He has a play style that suits and fits this roster, and I think it's going to work very well.
Yep. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the contrast between the bigs that we have here, who we have now. Night and day, man.
Absolutely.
He mentioned too, he said what he wants to bring here is a ton of energy and a ton of leadership, knowing that, he's one of the older guys on the team and just leading by example, showing those guys how to, do the right things. He said for him, that's very important. And then he also said, when he was asked about what it takes to play all 82 games, he said, it's having to be ready and mentally prepared. You got to take care of your body more and get more sleep. That's an adjustment I'm ready to make this year, is making sure I'm prepared for all 82. So it's just the mindset. You talked about it as far as eating right, sleeping right, what you're doing before games, preparation, after games, all those things, taking care of your body is what he spoke to just now. And I'm just happy we have people who understand how to go about your business as an NBA professional. Yeah, we have that now. Because we didn't really have it before, bro. It was kind of like I don't want to say there was the blind leading the blind, but those guys just hadn't been exposed to having years of experience. You can only expect so much from young guys,
right?
Who haven't been there before. So yeah, for sure.
He's very intentional with a lot of things that he was saying. I think he understands exactly what his responsibility is. Yeah, and again, we're talking about the on-court or off-court responsibilities and things that you need to take serious. And whether something like getting more sleep, that means a lot. I hope he's not staying downtown, because if that's the case, he ain't getting no sleep.
Nah. Not in
the fall he ain't. But
don't get you no love down there. You ain't never gonna get no sleep.
But yeah, I'm very excited about what I saw from him. I love his game. He said he learned a lot from playing behind Joel Embiid. Seeing how serious he took a lot of his repetition in practice and a lot of the things that he worked on. So, yeah, I think he's going to bring a great sense of his own skill set and how it's going to translate to the other guys around him as well.
What do you think about this? I got a couple comments here. Here's John. He said, can Reed play the backup 4 until Bobby comes on? And then he said, thinking Stu at the backup 5. What do you think about this part, though, as far as Reed playing the backup 4? So, it was kind of what you mentioned, as far as him playing the 4 and Stu playing the 5. I want to see how they look playing together. I don't know how much their skill sets overlap. I don't know, because they both can stretch the floor a little bit. They both play physical. It may work because they both can stretch the floor and they both can play inside.
Yeah.
So maybe they can, as long as one is doing one and one is kind of doing the other while they're on the floor together. It's yet to be seen, but I think it can happen. I just got to see it first.
Yeah, I think I can see a future where that works. I think based on the development that we've seen too, because I don't think Paul's much of a 3-point shooter. But if he's a guy compared to a Beef Stew, who, like we just said, I think this is where maybe show some value. Yeah. Stew being a set shooter, but you have Paul Reed who can create with his own handle and back you down, which Beef Stew is not super strong at right now. I think that's where they don't clash. And I think that's maybe where things get a little bit better for. So, yeah, Johnny, I think that's a fair question. I think it's very possible that works. I think we'll probably get a look at it. Again, we don't know exactly what the rotation is going to look like right now. Yeah. Unfortunately, what kind of worries me a little bit is like when Monty Williams saying, I need to stop playing so many bench guys, but you were in a position where you had a lot of guys who needed to play. Right. It kind of still feels like that a little bit, at least between those two. Okay. Again, I don't know how much Tim Hardaway Jr., how much Malik was going to play. We're not certain yet, but I don't think they're super pressed compared to the last season. But I do think their skill sets are complementary enough, unlike Wiseman and Bagley, who were neither could shoot. They were just lob threats who were big and kind of slow. I think they're a little different now. They're way more athletic. They're not, just lanky and trying to figure stuff out. They're bruisers who can punish you on the inside and own that paint. And I feel like if that's an area of emphasis for them, we're going to see a lot more wins than we saw last season.
Yeah. And if we're being honest, those two guys as the backup front court, they just embody Detroit so much more than the Marvin Bagley and the James Wiseman.
For sure.
Neither of which were physical. Both of which were finesse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So just having guys who, aside from talent,
right?
Because when you get to your bench, you need guys who know how to play with your stars, right? Mm-hmm. So having guys who know who they are, who don't think they're better than what they are, just based on their draft pick, their draft selection, right? No egos. They play Detroit-style basketball. They play physical. They play hard. Just that alone is going to complement our stars and the other players in the team. And that's going to be, in my opinion, addition by subtraction.
Totally agree. Completely agree. I think that they talk about that a lot, even back to Troy Weaver, when he drafted Asar, when he said, who represents the Pistons the most. Yeah. I feel like those two guys, Paul Reed and Beef Stew, they have that mindset and that play style specifically on defense. I think that's right there for them. I think they really can complement each other, and I think they fit well based on the starters and the other people on the roster as well. Like, it's not a lot of, like, again, when you looked last year at guys like Wiseman, guys like Bagley, like, how do they fit with this? How does Bojan fit with this? It was a lot of stuff that was just kind of clunky and didn't make sense. I feel like it's a lot more, like, there's still questions, but I think it's a lot better of a fit from top to bottom than we saw last season.
For sure. And the difference is that we're supposed to have questions now. Yes. Last season, we had questions during the season.
Yes.
That weren't getting answered.
No, not at all.
So of course we haven't seen these guys play together. To your point, you're right. We still have questions. We're supposed to right now. Right. Because we haven't seen any of these guys. They probably have questions. I'm sure Trajan has questions. I'm sure JB has questions.
For sure.
They're figuring it out now. Last season with Monty, we had questions game 65. You know what I mean? That just weren't getting answered. So that alone is just going to make define the roles. Knowing your role on a basketball team is so underrated.
Yes.
It's so underrated. And guys last season did not seem to know their roles. And now they do. It appears. So we'll see. I'm going to leave it at that. We'll see. Mm-hmm. A few more guys we'll get to and we'll call it a night, guys. Marcus Sasser.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on how Sasser fits with this team? And then I'll kind of want to hear what you think about what he had to say.
He said a lot of interesting things. He talked a lot about his summer league work and how he wanted to focus on being a more well-rounded point guard, which I like. I like hearing that about him. So we saw it in his game too. It was very clear that he wasn't just playing like last season where it's just dribble, pull back, shoot. He did a lot of facilitating, a lot of ability to try to get Ron Holland looks, getting Bobby different looks. He did a really good job of working on that, and I respect him for that a lot. He also talked about, I asked him, I said, the point guard depth is not as crowded as it was last season. How do you look at that? Because I wanted to see if you would speak on, like, I got this opportunity to solidify myself as like the backup or show that I can fit here. He said, look, I'm just willing to do whatever I need to do. And I like that. He talked about his ability to still step in as a point, but he also talked about being able to play off ball as well, which could be a future as well. Because if Ivy is playing as your staggered point guard, or if Cade is playing as your staggered point guard, who's to say that Sasser can't roam and just be a spot-up shooter from here and there?
Right.
It may not be something that you rely on consistently, but if teams are – like a lot of teams put the Pistons in zones last year where they said, y'all can't shoot. You just want to make Cade drive and throw lobs. Nah, sit in this zone and let's see what you can do. If you have a guy like Sasser who can move around, if you have someone who can play on the elbow to kind of find spots and, areas of weaknesses for the defense, he's a guy that can help take advantage of that. So I like that he's thinking of ways to expand his game while not just relying on how can I go get 20 shots up, because we saw a lot of that last season. And it really wasn't fitting and working, at least towards the second half of the season. He started off really hot. He did really good to open up the season, but we're going to need to see a little bit more to stand for yourself for the future.
And it's good that he understands. He's a very talented player, man. Skill set wise, he's probably at the top of the list, in my opinion, skill set wise. And it's funny because he's a bucket getter, bro. Like, he even said it today. He said, last year I feel like I hit a couple shots. Like, it wasn't even a big deal. Like, ho-hum, hit a couple shots last year.
Right.
It just comes easy for him. But like you said, if he can kind of get into that point role too, I think that will open up a lot for him alone. So just to know that he's working on, everybody seems to be working towards something specifically, and that seems to be the thing for him. So if he can work on that, he says he's been watching film a lot, all these different things, that'll be good for him. Also, he talked about the vets.
Mm-hmm.
He said that we had good vets last year, but I feel a different type of vibe from these vets. They seem more into it, not even just on the court. They're helping us with life. And that's what you said earlier.
Yes. Yeah, no, yeah, I don't think he was trying to shade the other guys, but it came off the way a little bit.
Hey, man.
But he's not wrong about what he's saying. I totally get it. So especially if you think about who the vets were, a big one, like we talked a lot about Bojan. Bojan was hurt for like 2 months. So you couldn't even get acclimated or seeing him have the impact that you would want from one of your veteran scorers, one of your veteran shooters. They didn't have that ability to lean on him like that. Now you have Tobias. Now you have Malik Beasley. You got Tim Hardaway Jr. You got guys who are focused on trying to help and show the right and wrong ways of growing as a young player in this league. It's one thing to just listen to somebody tell you it from the bench. It's another thing to be able to see it and understand it from an on-court perspective as well.
Agreed,
and being able to have that bond before the season starts is major. And I'm so happy that they're able to build that up right now.
Preaching, dog. You preaching, bro. You preach. This gonna be the go-to whenever somebody's just like on a roll. You know what I'm saying? Like point after point after point after point. Hallelujah over here. Yeah, that's gonna be the new one. That's gonna be the new one, bro. Medea style. All right, got a few more guys, y'all. We gonna get back to it. A few more guys, and we'll get out of here. Ron Holland, bro. He had a lot to say today. He seemed to have a chip on it. He's been listening to the noise. He's been listening to the white noise. I'm gonna let you comment first on what Ron Holland had to say. Go ahead, go for it.
I love how he came in. He was smiling. You know, he got himself a little twisties. He got himself a new hairdo and whatnot too. But he openly said it too. He said, the first time I talked to you guys after the draft, I was nervous. I was really unsure what to say. You know, I wasn't really sure how to adjust and what to get used to. But he said, after spending some time with my team, playing the summer league, getting a little bit more comfortable and whatnot now, I'm a different guy and I feel way more confident. You could just see it. He was having fun. He was answering in long answers. He was giving personality. Someone asked him about the draft class too. Someone asked him about, having a chip on your shoulder about that. He's like, yeah, like I'm tired of hearing these backhanded compliments of how, such and such is good, but compared to other classes, they ain't all that. So it seemed like he wants to be the flag bearer for this draft class. And as a top 5 pick, who's to say he can't be that best player or one of those best players? We'll see how his time comes. Again, with guys like Asar not being healthy right now or 100% ready to go, it could open up an opportunity for him to play. We don't know how much time he's going to have, but he's someone that I think can play 2, 3, maybe 4. Maybe. Probably not for right now.
That's what I'm at too.
For sure right now. And the progression that we saw through the summer league with his offense, with his explosive dunks and transition. And then him talking about it too. He said the way that I can get comfortable and leave an imprint early is by playing defense. And I think he's gonna work hard on that to open up this season as a rookie.
That's right. Yeah, man. Yeah. He talked about getting accustomed to Detroit too. And this is why, once again, I'm so happy that our other teams are playing well right now. I really am. Accountability is like, it just shows you how much these guys care about that. A lot of times you might think, they don't care about the fans. They don't really care. They may take it for granted when the fans are there, but when the fans aren't, they notice it. Yeah. They notice it, especially when they go to Comerica or Ford Field and they see the stark contrast. That's really when I think they notice it. Because he said, being downtown, I hear all types of noise when the games are going on. The amount of love this city shows to the sports is ridiculous. It's unbelievable. And he just threw the first pitch out at Comerica. Imagine that roar he got. You know what I mean? So these guys want that to transcend to Little Caesars Arena, I'm sure. And so it just gives them the extra motivation, man. They want that. They really do. They wouldn't talk about it as much as they do, unprompted, if it didn't mean anything to them. For 100%. Sure.
You want the city behind you. Again, these fans, they bleed for the sports in this city. They care. And like you said, not even just like going to these games, but living downtown too. It's one thing to, live in like Sterling Heights or Livonia.
Auburn Hills.
That's not Detroit, bro. And it's fine if that's where you want to be. Cool.
Facts.
But being in the city, like that's why I'm such a huge Jameson Williams fan.
I love that dude.
He doesn't just like, it obviously lies related, but he is in the city. Even when we saw the video where he went to the Coney Island,
I'm like, be careful, bro.
Bigging him up. Like, yo, we got a whole team behind you.
Yeah.
Being in downtown for somebody like Ron who's stepping into this franchise, he
Yeah.
gets to feel that every day.
Yep.
He's not gonna have to wonder or like take a trip down to see. He gonna wake up and feel it every time he steps outside. And I think that's gonna be major for his psyche as a rookie.
Yeah, it means a lot to him.
Yes,
you can see it. He feeds off of that energy, that positive energy. You know,
for sure.
And he's affected by the negative energy. You can see either way. He's affected by it. So he wants to, like all the other guys, they want to bring that positivity back, man. They would. I mean. Yeah. I'm sure they've heard about, I hope they've heard about the Pistons back in the, in the early 2000s when they used to sell out. They had the longest streak of sellouts. I think it was like 200 plus games of sellouts at the Palace. That's what we do here. That's what we do. We will drive all the way to Auburn Hills for whoever doesn't live there to go watch you play if you play hard. If it's in the city, come on now.
Exactly. He also spoke about, and this is super important too, with getting acclimated to a team that's rebuilding. Coming from the G League Ignite, they weren't winning at all. He openly said that. He's like, yo, it's no secret. We weren't winning over there either. So it didn't bother me to come to a team like this that's been struggling. Like, I know what I can bring. He said, I have a great relationship with Cade Cunningham.
Yep.
Jalen Duren spoke super highly of him.
He did.
Like a rookie. He seems just like a veteran they call him a young vet or a young rook. So they talk about him as if like he's ready and confident to step in and do what's needed for this team. And given his skill set, given what we saw in Summer League, it may take a little bit of time, but I think his development, his flourishment is going to be beautiful with how he played in the Summer League. Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned Jalen Duren because I was going there next as far as him. Mm-hmm. He said I got the quote. He said he's very mature. I'm like 1 year older than him.
Yeah.
He said, but conversations and the way he carries himself, he's very mature and very confident. From day one, it's been, I'm ready to go. It's no, I'm a rookie, I'm going to take it slow. No, I'm ready to go now. I love to hear that. Yeah. I love to hear, because JD doesn't just throw around compliments like guys like that. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
For us to hear that Holland is hitting the ground ready to go, running, like hitting the ground running, ready to go. Yeah, I'm with it all day long. All day long, bro.
Is there. He seems energized. He seems prepared. And again, a lot of the guys around him are seeming to give him that extra set of confidence, especially coming in as nervous as he was with this team. So I'm very excited to see what he does.
Yeah. Talked about playing with reconnecting with Cade. He said you got 2 Dallas dudes. I think you mentioned that. 2 Dallas dudes worked out together, played against each other in high school. And yeah, man, I think that's gonna help Ron too. It's just having another Texas native that is here to kind of help him through that transition. And then having a guy like THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr., who actually played in Dallas as well. Right. Those guys are going to help him. They'll be able to relate to him from where he was and help him kind of transition to where he is now,
I think someone else who went to his high school, I asked him when he was drafted during his introductory presser, because I asked him about who are the other players around the league who kind of gave him some support. He talked about Tyrese Maxey as well, because I think he went to Duncanville with him. So I think he's getting a lot of good support around him, not just from his team, but a lot of the support from Texas in his hometown and like that upcoming area that he had. He's got a lot of great inspiration and support around him. I think it's going to reflect beautifully in his game.
Good point. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Petey, yes, we are, bro. We got a few more we're going to get through. We was going to get through everybody, man. We're getting through all 13 guys tonight who are on that roster.
Talk about Petey.
Right?
A lot to talk about today, Petey.
A lot to get to, man. One more thing with Ron Holland, which seemed to kind of, I won't say he took offense to it, but he took exception to it when asked about his shooting.
Yeah.
Right? The question was say you can, basically, Ron, earlier this offseason, you said you can be one of the best shooters in the league. Before that statement was finished, he said, I meant that. Is right? Is that what happened? Because I saw it on Twitter, but I wasn't sure. Okay.
That's exactly. He said, yeah, you were talking about how you can be one of the best shooters in the league. He looked at him dead in his face. I meant that. That was cool. That confidence is not lacking in any way.
That's what's up.
It's cool to be humble and step in as a rookie, but he wants to be that dog in the top 5 that the Pistons drafted. Like you're not drafting with the expectation of just coasting along slow. Like granted, you're gonna want to, step in as gradually and where it makes sense. But he seems ready. He kept talking about it. He finished every sentence saying, I'm ready to go. I'm excited to get going. And I think we're gonna see it immediately with this kid.
You could be right, bro. He could be that guy from this class. One can only hope. We'll see. But the way he's talking, he's on the right track.
I see.
Last thing with him is with a shot. He said that the work we've been putting in, obviously him and Fred Vincent, has been amazing. I'm a guy that's ready to go in the gym right now and showed the world what I've done with my shooting. Okay. Shoot, say less. Say less.
Let's get to it. I feel like again, I'm not saying it's gonna be him right away, but some player he reminds me of with how he plays, especially given with how he started too. A player that sticks to my mind with him is Jimmy Butler. Jimmy was not a scorer like that to start. And that's not to say Ron can't score now. His jumper wasn't there like that. He had a lot of his production mainly off of defense and transition buckets next to Derrick Rose. If he could have a gradual growing step like that, like I can kind of see it. I see a little bit of that style. I see a little bit of that dog in him. And I feel like that's something more that he could kind of take a lot of notes from and learn from as a young forward in this league.
I never thought about Jimmy, but that's because Jimmy was what, the fourth option on that Bulls team? Because you had D Rose, you had Booz, you had Luol Deng, right? So yeah, you're right, bro. I never thought Jimmy was going to get to the point offensively that he is now, ever.
Not at all. And again, it's not to say that he's going to become that, but I feel like because he talked about taking those steps and growth and whatnot, I don't see a reason why he can't mimic something of that sort. I've seen that in his game for sure.
If he gets there, we're in contention, in my opinion.
You cooking.
Looking at who we have already. If he gets there, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
That's the goal. He can change a lot with this team and how they go in their future for sure.
I believe it. So Ryan, we're rooting for you, bro. We're rooting for you. We got your back.
Absolutely.
2 more guys, and we're getting out of here. Your boy. Oh, actually, this is my guy. I've been high on. He might be yours too. I took a little bit of ownership with him early after summer league.
Oh yeah,
Clinton, bro.
You can have him. I'll let you have him. That's
Bobby Clinton. Bobby Clinton is my guy, bro. I told King just watching him play. I'm like, you've seen the meme with Leo DiCaprio where he's like, and he's looking at the screen.
Yeah.
I'm watching summer league. I'm like, wait a minute, who is this guy? Who is Clinton? I know we drafted him, but who is he? And just watching him in summer league, bro. I know it's summer league. I get it. But just seeing what he was able to do, not even looking at who was defending him, just looking at his own skill set itself, jumped off the page.
100%.
Jumped off the page. If somebody were to tell me he played overseas for years, I believe that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The game comes easy to him. You can see it. Any thoughts on Bobby Clinton that you observed from the presser?
The rookies, I think, were 2 of the more fun guys to talk to. I think Bobby was really cool. Like, I liked hearing his perspective on the game. Jalen Duren hyped him up a lot as a 6'9", 6'10" dude who can shoot. And he said that's something he worked on a lot. He said, like, being able to pass and have a handle. Those are things that he's, worked on naturally with his game overseas and before he stepped into the league. So I think he has a very high ceiling of what he can bring to the team. I love the comment they brought up of, letting, Paul Reed kind of step in and be the guy. I think we'll probably see Bobby maybe spend some time in the G League for a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be for long. I don't think he's going to be there an extended amount. I mean, if like injuries happen or if they need to, maybe give another guy a look, I think he's going to be someone that can surprise a lot of people. And again, it may not all be in immediate stats. He may not give you 20 points, 10 boards right away.
Right.
But his ability to just make kind of short roll passes, make quick reads to the guys who are open, being able to dribble and handle the ball on his own.
Yeah.
It's not a handle that needs work either. It's not like a guy like Stu or other guys who are, you may be able to give it to him, but you're not going to want to see him hold it for long. Bobby, we saw him bringing the ball up in transition, finding guys, throwing lobs. Like, he was doing a lot. So, it may just be summer league, but a lot of the stuff that he was doing didn't look like he was just doing on accident.
Right.
He was like a very polished player, even at such a young age as a rookie.
I agree. You know who he reminds me of? I was thinking about comps for him. He reminds me of a young Boris Diaw. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Before he put on all that weight and went to San Antonio.
A little more athletic and skinny,
Phoenix.
Though.
Phoenix Boris.
Okay.
Somebody who could handle the ball. You know what I mean? He could shoot the ball. Very smart player, man. Yes. Doesn't hurt you. Makes the right pass. Makes the right play every time. Every time. That was what made him so good. He wasn't crazy athletic. You know what I mean? Bobby's not crazy athletic. He's a decent athlete, but he's not crazy athletic. He's just long and tall. He's 6'9", 6'10". Yes. But he plays smart basketball.
Yep.
And that's why he reminds me of a Boris. If he becomes that, I think he can be the future 4. Starting alongside Jalen Duren, who actually said about him, he's underrated with the ball and can really pass it. The sky's the limit for him. So you got Jalen Duren. I think Jalen Duren will love playing alongside a Bobby Clipman 2 or 3 years from now, maybe even 1 or 2 years from now.
I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like Boris is really good. That's a really good, especially when he went to the Spurs too.
Yeah.
Without the athleticism, the same skills and the same traits translated to being able to make the extra pass, being able to put the ball on the ground with a couple dribbles here, the ability to not have to play selfish basketball, to be able to play within the team to help everybody else and play winning ball. You see that in his game, and it reflected in summer league as well. Yeah, that's he has a high projection. I think I wanted to ask him too about, having that G League contract and then, stepping in to get that guarantee one as well. I'm going to get into that, Pistons fans. I'm going to get that for you, I promise.
Okay.
But I wanted to find out about that because it seemed like that they saw something special in him quickly to get him that deal. And I really want to ask him about that soon.
Shout out to Trajan, bro.
Yes.
Because he found a diamond in the rough, bro. If we're all being honest, we had no idea who he even was before he came here, right?
For sure.
I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. When I found out who we drafted him, I wasn't like quick to go on Twitter and talk about it. I was like, okay, let me go do some research.
Right.
That was it. But now, he might be one of those guys in retrospect, years from now, we look back and say, he was one of those guys, those second round guys we talk about that really became a really, really good NBA player. So I see that with him for sure.
The future is clear for him. I love this kid.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. All right, last guy, and we'll call it a night, guys. Tim Hardaway Jr. Just came over here from Dallas, right? Fresh off a finals appearance from Michigan. A lot of ties here. Well, at least played at Michigan. His father's Tim Hardaway Sr., who actually was a coach here, assistant coach for a few years here. Yes. What are your thoughts on what he had to say?
He was very encouraging as well. He talked about, having this opportunity to be back home. He pointed a couple jokes at some of the Michigan State beat writers in the media room. They had a nice little back and forth on that.
That's cool.
But again, very encouraging with what I heard from him. He talked about his relationship with Cade Cunningham. I asked him about that. I asked about the relationship between him and Cade after Cade reached out to him after his shin injury from his second year. He said, I'm really happy he made the decision to take care of that right away, preserve his health, preserve his future, get it taken care of right away so you can make sure you're still here for the next 15 years. Yeah. He said, I believe he's going to be one of those guys. To now be one of his teammates. And again, I'm not certain of how many minutes him and Malik Beasley are going to play.
Right.
But nice to know that you can still rely on guys like them to knock down shots and still complement the young players.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be a guy that's, coming in like Alec Burks was a cool player, but he was one of the guys that tried to do too much. I thought he was a good compliment for a while until he, like Bojan, was dribbling all the time, taking step backs here and just trying to do too much. Tim Hardaway doesn't play like that. Beasley doesn't play like that. Tobias doesn't play like that. Nope. I think these guys complement this foundation very, very well for what they need. So I'm really encouraged about what he said, and I think we're going to see a lot of that good stuff on the court as well.
To your point, I don't think we're going to see both of those guys every night. But because we do have such a young team, there's going to be foul trouble.
Yep.
Right? There's going to be injuries,
of course.
Unfortunately. There's going to be just off nights for guys.
Right.
When the offense is just stuck in the mud and you're looking for a spark. Right? And I think that's when I think there's going to be a game or two this season when Tim Hardaway comes in and helps us get a win. Because the offense isn't working, it's not clicking, and he comes in and just gives you a few key buckets that you need in a stretch. He gives you 6 to 8 to 10 points in a row. He gets off, hits a few threes in a row, gets the offense rolling, and that's because of that, he'll be an unsung hero for a few games, I think, because we have a young team. I think that they're going to look to him in situations and spots when needed to come in and be that guy, and I think he and Beasley are going to be contributing in that way.
Something valuable he also talked about was defensively, because when you think about his name, you think about him as just a spot-up shooter. But if you looked at how he played in the playoffs and in the regular season as well, he switched out against a lot of bigs. Like, he even matched up against Chet Holmgren and was able to kind of hold his own for some possessions and whatnot. Okay. So, again, whether or not if it's him doing it, he'll be able to coach and talk to the young guys on, hey, I know he's bigger than you, but step here. Put your arm here, keep him this far apart, and you'll be able to work to this or try this defensively.
Yeah.
He has a lot of, IQ that he can work on. He also did a good job of kind of limiting some expectations. Shout out to my guy Sean Murphy, but he asked about, similarities between what he sees with Cade and Luka. He said, look, it's only one Luka, but Cade can get pretty close.
I was going to get to that.
Far. Yeah.
Yes.
He showed that he can still be special. There's only one Luka, but Cade can be as special too. So, he said a lot of encouraging things about what he thinks from Cade.
And, I mean, who better to talk about that than the player who played with him for a few years?
Exactly.
He's seen both of these guys up close now. He hasn't played with Cade yet, but I'm sure he's played against them. Mm-hmm. And when Cade matches up against Dallas, for a few reasons, he seems to play well. Because he's playing against Luka. He's back at home, somewhat back at home. So I think THJ saw that. He saw a lot of similarity just watching them go at each other and seeing Cade do some of the things he's able to do. And you can't teach size, right? Cade's basically the same height as Luka. They're both about 6'7"-ish. Yep. Maybe Cade is 6'7.5" with his pro. Who knows, right? Right. But they're about the same height, same size. I think Luka's he's bigger, obviously, but Cade is strong. And I don't know if he's going to get to that level, but I don't think we need him to. We don't need him to beat Luka. We don't need this heliocentric offense where we got 4 out. No, we don't need that. No, he's perfect for what we need right now. And if he gets even somewhat close to that, that's a win for him and for us, for sure.
100%. Definitely different kind of play style, but the heliocentric thing is not what you want to rely on for a guy like Cade. Like,
nah, bro.
Be able to play off ball. You can rely on other guys to feed and score. And I think that's going to show value for sure as soon as this season.
What up, Mike? What you doing on that side of the fence, bro? Why you on that side of the fence? You supposed to be over here, Joker.
What's good, King?
Gonna come on as soon as you about to leave. Man, what in the world? I'm banning you from your own channel.
Last comment. We're gonna leave the last comment is him.
Right. Nah, it's all love, my dog. We got love for you, bro. Appreciate you coming in, man. I want to end with this, and we'll get out of here. It's almost 8 o'clock. Shout out to the beat writers, man. You and everybody else in their hard work, hectic hard work, fast-paced moving hard work to get all this information out to everybody. Shout out to you. Shout out to everybody, man. Like you mentioned, Sean Murphy, Omari, Zar, Kool-Aid. Cool got a shout out today, man, which is pretty dope from Jalen Duran.
That was so cool. Yeah.
That was so dope. I wasn't there, but you were. What was it like in the building? What was the reception like when JD's? Because I'm sure nobody was expecting that. I know Koo was like scrounging Twitter trying to find the actual video. But what was it like being there and hearing that as far as just somebody getting their credit?
Man, Cool was lit up with you. We all heard it too. Like JD was walking off and said, "Yo, I F with Locked On Pistons."
Yeah,
and you could just see Cool's face light up. Like, bro, did you get that on camera? He's like, "No, who did? Who got it on camera? I need that."
Yeah.
And I think shout out Dr. Darius. I think he got it and sent it to him.
Really? Okay.
Seeing that connection and seeing, because I always hate when players lie and athletes lie. Oh, I don't pay attention to the media. I don't.
Right.
Yes, you do. We know you do, and it's okay that you do. So
my brother does.
Exactly.
So,
and it was really cool to see him light up and have that moment, dude. Man, Cool is a guy that's worked his behind off for years, built up that platform super well. I love watching his channel. So to see him get that reflection and get that cosign of that love from JD, I know that made his life, man. And now to have the feel of it too. I know it's on his Twitter. I'm super happy for that dude, man.
I am too, bro.
A better person.
Yeah, exactly. Because he spoke to it too. He talked about how he used to be credentialed and then he lost it and now he's got it back. Yeah. You know what I mean? So he's got out the mud, y'all. Like he's really got out the mud. He's doing this every single day. He's putting in that work. He's just like how Eric is. Eric, you're gonna be in the same position soon too. JD gonna be saying the same thing about you. JD gonna be in your podcast eventually. All that. So yeah, man. Just wanted to shout out, huh?
Yeah, throw me a shout out. I can use
of course.
A good plug, JD.
If you're listening, bro, we got a lot coming for y'all. He got a lot of content coming for you. I got a song called, well, I won't give you the name of the song, but I got a song dedicated to you and Isaiah Stewart actually coming next. But shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to, because without y'all, we don't have this. You know what I mean? We appreciate y'all, man. Anything else you wanted to add before we get out of here, bro?
No, man. Hey, it was an awesome day. Media day is always fun. It's cool to see the energy. I've always seen it from a fan point of view. This is my first media day that I got to be a part of. Just seeing the energy. learning from, the other beat writers. Shout out to Amari Sankofa. He helped me a lot with,
Amari.
sitting next to him. There's a lot of cool guys and a lot of great media members that represent this community. Again, I just want to prove that I can be one of them ones, and I'm learning from a lot of great people, man. So shout out to all of them too. Shout out to people like you and King to help me get this stage and be in this position to help and reflect with these great people of this community, man. I love it. I've worked my life to be here, and I'm not going to let y'all down.
And we love all the comments, man. We love all the support that you guys give us. I'm not a beat writer, but I'm a Pistons enthusiast just like everybody else, just like all you guys. So it's just cool to be able to talk about this together and to get you guys input, because you guys bring things to mind that we don't always think about too. You know what I'm saying? Like, for sure. Y'all know y'all history. Y'all are diehards just like us. So we appreciate that for sure from all of you guys too. And we're going to continue to do our own little part. I'm going to do my small little part. Eric's going to do his bigger part. King's going to do his part. We all going to do our part, right? But we all going to have fun with this season coming up, and we all going to enjoy it together. So straight up. We're going to end with that, man. We appreciate everybody coming through. We are looking forward to practices every other day now at this point. We're back now, right? Oh, yeah. Pretty much.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We're in full swing.
Tomorrow. We in full swing with it.
So look forward to Eric. If you're not following him, everybody go follow him. What is it? I'm Eric Vincent everywhere?
Yes, sir. I am Eric Vincent. Hit me up on Clutch Points. Shout out to my my YouTube channel, Top Title Entertainment. Follow me everywhere. I'll interact with you. I want to be here with the people. Talk to me. I'm gonna talk back. I promise. There's his CAG right there underneath. Just go check him out. Go subscribe. Go follow. Go comment. Go like. Go bookmark. Screenshot. All of it. Be invasive. I don't care. Just go to his page. Just go check him out. Spam away. Go right ahead.
Spam them. Good or bad. It's all good for engagement. So anyway, but yeah, we appreciate everybody here, man. We're gonna get out of here, and we will catch y'all on the next one. Detroit versus everybody. Peace.